To get to Keane Wonder Mine, you take Daylight Pass from the town of Beatty, and then as you're descending toward Death Valley, there's a left turn toward Furnace Creek. About 5 miles from that left turn, you see this sign. And then you've got another 3 miles of unpaved road. It's decent road though. The beast made it. If the beast made it, your car probably can too. Anyway, yeah, and then that takes you up to Keane Wonder Mine. We're at the Keane Wonder Mine in Death Valley, California, Death Valley National Park, and you're looking at the hill upon which Keane Wonder Mine was built, the whole area here. We're going to take a 360 real quick. Now we're looking more toward the south now. Looking over to the Black Mountains in the distance there. Down southern Death Valley, a little more to the west. Southwest. And you see Death Valley below. And here's something really cool. You can see the sun just reaching Telescope Peak. Now you're looking at the Panamint Range. Here's the beast. It's a 3-mile unpaved road. There's a little washboard to it. It's not too bad. If the beast can make it, most cars can. You're definitely not going 60 miles an hour on it. Now you're looking at the Cottonwood Mountains and the Last Chance Range, the sun just touching the tops of the mountains. Very beautiful time in the morning. It's the second Saturday in January. And you can see some of the mining operation. Keane Wonder Mine was the longest operating mine during the California Gold Rush time. Started in the early 1900s, and a lot of the towns were mining camps and towns were like a little flash in the pan. They lasted maybe 5-7 years. But Keane Wonder Mine, starting in the early 1900s, was in operation all the way to the 1940s. There were some mining operations. And the reason that this one mine had the longest life of all the mines in the Death Valley area is that it had a very good infrastructure for getting the ore out of the mountain. And then there are 2 mills. There was a stamp mill at the very at the upper end, and these are the Funeral Mountains. There was a stamp mill at the top that would crush the rock, and then the rock would be transported down the Funeral Mountains a vertical mile by means of an aerial tramway, and then it'd be transported down this vertical mile to a lower mill where the crushed ore would be further processed with using cyanide. There are a lot of materials here that were in use in the processing of this ore that still there's a little bit, they tried to remove a lot of these poisonous materials, but there's still some residue to this day, so you don't want to wander off the main trails. There is actually one main trail that goes up that mile along the tramway, near the tramway, and we'll be taking that in a little bit, but evidently it's surprisingly steep. So we're going to get up to the top, and the mining camp was above, and there are a number of scattered mines that are still in the area, and these mines have been covered. There was a person that fell into an open mine shaft. Some of these mines are vertical. They're just vertical mine shafts. They're not like you see in the movies where you just walk into this tunnel. No, if you go over the edge, you're falling straight down. And there was a man that was lost his life falling into one of these vertical shafts. So they covered them all. We'll take a look at some of these shafts in a little bit when we get up to the top of the mountains here. So anyway, Keane Wonder Mine, and I'm shaking a little bit because it's really cold, and I always dress for how I'm going to feel, the right temperature in about, after 30 minutes of exertion. And so just getting out of the car in my running shorts, it's really cold right now. But there you have it. There's the aerial tramway. We're going to take a path right up that tramway to the top of the funeral range and look for some mine shafts. Okay, here we go. Just in the time I've been talking, look at the Panamint Range and the sunrise hitting the mountains there. So beautiful. There you have the rising sun over Death Valley. And by the way, it's always interesting to try to find Augerberry Point. I believe that in the Panamint Range there, I believe in this area up here is that little smooth hill where it drops off to the left. I believe that is the ridge behind which, or on the right side, is Skidoo. And if we then move over to the left, south, a little bit, my guess is that Augerberry Point is that high point in the center. And then moving on a little further, Telescope Peak. So it's always interesting to see those on Las Vegas area trails. There are pages for Telescope Peak, Wild Rose Peak. Just the Telescope Peak is the snow covered peak there. Then you have Bennett and Rogers Peak, and then Wild Rose Peak. And those are to the right or north of Telescope Peak. And there are pages for Telescope Peak, Wild Rose Peak, Augerberry Point, and Skidoo. Interesting thing is that Skidoo, which is right up in this area, had a water powered stamp mill that would crush rock. And Skidoo also was a mining area. But anyway, there was a water powered stamp mill. Where did they get the water? Well, just go to the left or south of Skidoo, And 23 miles away, Skidoo got its water. They created a pipeline 23 miles all the way up to the Telescope Peak area. And they tapped a spring there and piped the water all the way over to Skidoo, right up in this area, and then, you know, powered that stamp mill that crushed the ore. So anyway, yeah, that was another mining town. And then up in this area also, there's the mining area of Eureka, right near the Augerbury Point area. That would be over in this area, Eureka. So there are pages on LasVegasAreaTrails.com where we explore Eureka and Skidoo, and of course climb Telescope Peak and Wild Rose Peak and head up to Augerbury Point. So anyway, yeah, that's how the mining operation worked in the Panamint Range. Meanwhile, here in the Funeral Mountains, we've got the Keane Wonder Mine with its stamp mills. Now, these were gas-powered stamp mills, an upper mill and a lower mill, and so different process. But this is the only place where there is that aerial tram. So, okay, let's go up there and explore around. There are a couple washes here, and one thing to notice is all the debris from the mining operation that's scattered all the way down the wash, and some of those tanks there very likely held cyanide. But anyway, yeah, lots of debris. And then you see a pipe here. There is a water pipe that goes all the way up to the top of the Funeral Range above the tramway, and that water pipe supplied, I think there's evidence of water pipes all over the place, but anyway, the water pipe you'll see as we get further up, and you may be able to see it on the side of the hill. The water pipe supplied the mining camp with water, and some of these tanks here, like I mentioned, are water tanks. Some held cyanide. I think this huge one might be a little more likely water, but who knows? I don't know that they'd have so much cyanide in one tank there of that size. And then let's look on the other side. This is the main road here that would have been taken, and then on the other side there's an additional wash, and again you can see debris scattered all through this wash. And pretty amazing that in a desert area like this, debris, tracks, all kinds of evidence left from human operations, passage. It remains for 100, 200 years, maybe even more, just walking through the desert and disturbing some of the area. That disturbance could last for 100 years or more. So it looks, pretty rugged environment here, but it's very fragile. More debris in the wash as we approach the lower end of the aerial tramway ahead. And you can see here how fortified a little bit with, somebody laid this rock, and it was very important to them to have this area stable, because this is the base of the aerial tramway right here. And yeah, pretty rickety. It was in the, around early 2000s, between 2010, 2017. This area was closed because the tramway was so unstable, and it was only opened after it was secured, and I'm sure it was secured with cables, as the stamp mill at Skidoo, you can see the cables in that structure. But anyway, it was secured, and the area reopened in 2017. And let's see, there's a little interpretive sign here. I'll read a little bit of that. Good fortune inspired the name King of the Desert, coined for the Keane Wonder Mine by the Rhyolite Herald in 1911. The mine was discovered by Jack Keane and Domingo Etcharren in 1904, producing over $1 million in gold from 1904 to 1917. The mine shared the distinction of being profitable with the mines in Skidoo and Rhyolite. The gold from the Keane Wonder Mine returned as coins to pay its employees. Wanting to capitalize on their good fortune, Keane and Etcharren sold their interest in the mine in 1907. Subsequent owners developed a 20-stamp processing mill housing an ice plant and a spectacular mile-long aerial tramway. The advantage to moving the ore down the mountain by tram and into the tunnel horizontally, by the tram, and to tunnel horizontally into the mountain rather than sinking shafts, allowed the mine to operate with a good profit margin, unlike most Death Valley mines. The Keane Wonder Mine lived up to its name, King of the Desert. So there you have it. And by the way, if you look at this sign here, you can see an image of the mining operation when it was at its height. And there was actually a post office here at one time. And I'll give a little more of the history as we head up the hill. But for now, let's go ahead and explore a little more the base of this tramway. Now, there's a lot to explore here. There's that huge tank up above. Yeah, cyanide or water, we don't know. And you can see this this ramp down which I imagine the ore was carted down to this landing and then moved from there. I don't know if it was further processed. It very well could have been processed using some of the liquid that was in that tank up above. And here's another tank. We don't know what this was. I'm sure that if you were one of the miners, you knew the entire operation here. But anyway, yeah, and look at this. This is some kind of a wheel, like that. Maybe it was part of the tramway. And you can see below a little more of the structure, but here above, see the side of the hill is reinforced, and then there's the ramp leading up to the tramway. Wow. Can you imagine carting all this wood? Now, there's no trees that grow in this area. So, yeah, the wood had to be carted in from from a long way away, and the roads were not that good. In fact, the beast traveled that 3-mile unpaved section just a bit ago, and yeah, there were maybe there's some vehicles in the early 1900s that could have carted this all this wood up here, but also this may have been a horse and buggy type operation. Who knows how they got the wood here. There was a railroad that eventually ended in this area, spur of a railroad, and so that could have helped, but I don't imagine that was here in time to construct all this. I think the construction probably occurred when the transportation was not very good. So here you see the top of another wash leading down into Death Valley and the Panamint Range to the west there. So yeah, this boy, this whole area was just beat up by the process of the mining. So let's find the pathway to take us up the hill. And I don't think it's here. I'd guess somewhere in this area down here at the base of the tramway was the lower stamp mill and the mining operation where the ore would be further processed, because yeah, you bring all the ore down this tram and down the ramp. You're not going to want to cart it too much further before you process it and extract the gold, and then of course you can move the gold where you want it to go, but definitely you don't want to move a whole lot of ore along with that. So my guess is that the final processing occurred right in this area here. Okay, my guess here is that if there's a trail that goes up, it's going to be starting somewhere in this area. Let's find out. For perspective, there's that water tank above the base of the tramway, and we're on this hill area, and there are a number of little trails. I think this is the trail that's going to take us up to the mine, the upper mining area. We'll see. And then you can see down this direction a lot of sharp drop-offs with no soft landings, but yeah, there's another trail that goes off to this area, whatever that is. Some definitely was a structure at one time. Now just the collapsed wood remains. So we may go down there a little later. What I want to do though is head up the hill and see if we can get to the top of the tramway. And my bet is that this is the way. If it's not, I'll let you know real quick. Here we go. And by the way, here's that water pipe And I believe this, no, it just goes up to this tank here. There is one water pipe that's going to go all the way up the mountain to the mining camp area. So yeah, let's go ahead and head up. For perspective again, there's the water tank. Now we're looking down toward the road. There's the beast parked down there. We haven't got very far, have we? You just want to explore this area though. So anyway, yeah. And then up this way, I'm gonna bet this is the trail that heads up the Funeral Mountains. Can't be as steep as Mummy Mountain. You can see that on Las Vegas area trails. There are avalanche slopes on all sides of Mummy Mountain in the Mount Charleston Wilderness. And yeah, this is steep, but it's really nice compared to Mummy Mountain. Yeah, this looks like it's got to be the trail. And actually, very good trail. I mean, it's stable compared to other slopes I've been on where all the rock is loose. At least in this part. We'll see how it goes the further up we get. And you can see we'll be at we'll be looking down on the base of the tramway very soon. Here's some more of the towers. Here's a look straight down the tramway. We're not too far up, but yeah, as you look down there, you're looking toward the base of the tramway. Here are a couple of the towers. Close-up view. See the construction. Rising sun in the background. And cables all over the place. There's that water pipe that supplied the upper mine area. This is the actual water pipe. The last pipe we looked at, I think, was from that big tank below that could have been a cyanide tank. We don't know. And then, yeah, looking up the tramway. So, very beautiful. And those cables still there after 100 years. Very amazing. And then just a little more of the 360-degree view. Looking northwest actually. There's the Last Chance Range, the Cottonwood Range. There's the Panamint Range to the west, and there you can see telescope peak right through the tram tower, and then circling around to the southwest. We're looking down Death Valley, and you can actually see down there evidence of a collection of water. There's a Amargosa River that flows through Death Valley, and then we actually walked down there to where large amount of water was collected, and created a video on what we call the return of Lake Manly. That's also on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on up the tramway. The aerial tram continues. locomotive structure, and then looking straight down the tramway. I tell you, the wind has really picked up. I think I'm going to be blown off this mountain. Okay, let's continue up this trail. Let's see the trail continue. One thing you notice on this trail is that the rocks here glow in the rising sun. And just taking a wild guess, not being a geologist, I think this might be manganese, but we don't know. Just thought I'd point that out, though. Look at how the rocks glow in the sun. These rocks are just full of minerals, and that's where gold was found, because the rocks are so mineral rich. One interesting thing about this pipeline is that every now and then there's a little deviation in the pipeline, and I guess they just wanted to try to manage the water pressure, so they created these little deviations now and then. I don't know. I'm not a plumber either, so I can't tell you why those little deviations in the pipe, but they exist every now and then all the way up this pipeline. There you see it. Okay, let's continue on up. Continuing up this path, and it keeps on rising, but it's fairly stable. Not like Mummy Mountain west on Las Vegas area trails, where we have what we call the horrifying half, which is a vertical mile ascent in just about a half mile, where here I think we've got about a mile to ascend that. And then looking around below us, here you see the Cottonwood Range. And one thing to note here that I haven't pointed out so far is there are the Mesquite Dunes right in the center. And there's a page on LasVegasAreaTrails.com where we stood in the Mesquite Dunes and got the whole length of the sunrise. And it was just last week, as a matter of fact. So Mesquite Dunes sunrise. And then looking back down over the valley to the west, Panamint Range, and then to the southwest, the length of the valley. So, so beautiful, quiet. Okay, let's continue on up this mile-long adventure to the top of the Funeral Mountains. Continuing up the Funeral Mountains on this little trail, that's pretty decent. Okay, here's another structure up ahead. This may have been the halfway point for the tram, and this would be where maybe there was another motor to take it the rest of the way up. Who knows? Maybe there was some offloading of ore from mines at this point. We'll find out when we get there. And alternately, it could have been the top of the tramway, but I don't think so. And then just looking around, wow, what a canyon below us. This is one deep canyon. Definitely don't want to be taking videos and walk off the edge of that thing. There's the Panamint Range to the west. Continuing on this trail. Actually, a very good trail. As trails go that are heading up the side of a mountain with loose rocks, the trail doesn't have much loose rock on it, at least so far. Closer look at that structure, and sure enough, looks like there's a some kind of a machine pulley right here that probably would have powered the tramway at this point. You can't power it all from the bottom, I'm sure. Imagine if one of those ore carts got away. Wow, what a catastrophe that would be. And there's the structure. Maybe that's the mid structure of the tramway. We don't know. We're gonna find out. We'll see if it continues on up. I don't see towers up here, but maybe they're just hidden. We'll see. And then just a quick look. Yeah, definitely. Wow, what a steep canyon here. And then looking back to the Panamint Range and Death Valley. Okay, yes, the cables do continue on up in this direction now. And up this hill to where we saw those gears, and most possibly toward for a machine that continued powering the ascent and descent of the ore cars. Okay, curiously, now we have some tracks. And let's just follow these. Oh, what do you know? Maybe that's why there was a halfway point here. Oh, look at this. Unsafe mine openings, deadly gas and lack of oxygen, cave-ins and decayed timbers, unsafe ladders and rotten structures, unstable explosives. Well, hey, we're not going to go into this opening, but let's just take a closer look at the opening itself. And those railroad tracks would have gone right into this area. Okay, this is all the further we want to go in here. And there it is. A mine opening right before it takes a turn to the right or the left or down. We're looking out the opening. Definitely don't want to brush against these timbers. It's nearly 100 years old, maybe actually over 100. If it were the early teens of the 1900s, that opening would be, we're looking over 100 years. Okay, there you have it. And here's the ramp to that platform, and we're looking over to the mine shaft here, and the ramp, and here's the platform, and you can even see the gears that were used to work that tramway. And of course the ever-present water supply pipe that supplied the upper camp. Another better look at this structure. Another angle on that platform structure that was placed there probably to export the ore that came out of that mine opening straight ahead. And the tramway would have continued up this hill. So maybe we'll get to the top and we'll look down on it. I had to take a little deviation to get a closer look at this structure here. Wow, look at this. Imagine hauling all this wood to construct this tram platform, and you can see the cables going down, but imagine hauling it all up when there was really no trail. There was nothing but climbing up the side of the mountain here. There's the water pipe continuing on up. And first you had to cart all of this material from where it was, or where it originated, where there are trees and iron to build this. Wow. Okay, a couple more mine openings here. And here's what we mean by a vertical opening. Do not drop your phone down this. Wow. And it is truly vertical. Look down there. Wow. That just goes forever. I can't even see the bottom. I don't dare walk across the top here to get a better picture. Okay, so, and then here's another opening right here. Look in that second opening. You see where it's blocked off just ahead. You also see it looks like it's snowing. This is just dust that is flying around. Curiously, something came through that pipe. Maybe that's how they got oxygen. Who knows? Because the pipe then continues, or maybe they used water to spray on the walls and try to release some of the ore from the cliff. Who knows? Or maybe they had an explosion in there and they would explode sections and then use the water to wash away the loose rock from the ore and then cart the ore out and down the tramway. Who knows? It's all speculation. but we do know that there's a pipe. And that pipe went right into the mine opening. Well, the trail has become a bit sketchy. I'm in this canyon now, and maybe I missed a turn up there. I don't know. But here's the canyon. There are some cairns, which seem to indicate that I'm on something, and I see signs of passage in this area. So we'll continue on up this canyon, see where it leads us, and maybe we'll end up at the summit and then find the actual trail. Who knows? I think I've officially lost the trail. I think that there was another way at that last mine shaft, and I should have continued up in that direction, because boy, it just doesn't look like there's anything resembling a trail in this area. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe retrace my way. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think this trail involves rock climbing over loose rock, which seems to be the only choice once you get up in this area. And I don't think I go down that little slot down there. So I'm going to retrace my way and see if there was another route that I missed back a ways. I did go a little further just because I wanted to be sure. And yeah, we're pretty much at the end of the line here, so I'm almost certain that I missed the main trail up to the summit. We don't know. Maybe I was there at that last tram structure, but it looked like it continued on up. So yeah, we're gonna retrace our way and see if we can find the place where we got off course and try another route. But definitely there is no further progress in this area unless that you're into some class 5 climbing, which I am not. Okay, let's retrace our way down this canyon and find where we got off course. Well, this way that I took that ended in a dead end up there at the box canyon, looks like somebody used this at one time. That almost looks right here like there's a little channel that was created, and someone took a lot of trouble to pile these rocks up for walls. And I'm gonna guess that actually there was a bridge here at one time that went over to the other side and then around the corner in that direction. But we're going to continue on this way, see if we can find, we'll get back to where we took a wrong turn, see if there's another way up. It should not be this difficult to get to the top of Keane Wonder Mine, I guess, unless you take a wrong turn. Well, if this rock isn't a telltale sign of gold, I don't know what is. You can see the crystal that's embedded in the rock. And that's one of the signs people looked for, old prospectors, when they were looking for gold. I'm taking a more uphill route from that tram area where we saw the last remains of the pulley and a platform. And it looks like, yeah, it continues up this way, but we don't know how far. So let's head up this direction and see if this is indeed a route up. Now, last time where I think I might have made a wrong turn was heading down that path. I needed to take a left turn instead of heading right and downward, because that ends basically in a box canyon. So that can't be the way up. I'm betting if there is a way further up, it's got to be right here. Let's go. There's a great pile of cable for the aerial tram. There's another aerial tram base, and wow, somebody really worked hard to stabilize the mountain right in this area. And you can see above it, it's just wanting to avalanche down this way. So, well, we'll go up a little further and see if this is the way up. Here's another mine opening. Let's take a look down inside. Yeah, that goes straight down. So I may have reached the end of the line here, because to continue on upward or around this cliff, looks like there's a little sign up ahead that says, "Do not continue in this direction." And the little pictures are faded that are on the sign, but yeah, there's, if you look closely, you can faintly see the image of someone falling off the edge of something. So I think I may be at the end of the line here. And here we are looking around west across Death Valley, and then down south to the Furnace Creek area, actually, and beyond. And then, of course, this whole area, there's that structure we were at some time ago before heading up into the box canyon. I'm going to guess on this trail, I've taken both possibilities, and I'm going to guess we're at the end of the line on this trail, and it's time to head back down, and we'll head down to that structure down there, rest a little bit before heading back down to the base of the trail here. Keane Wonder Mine. And then again, there was an upper mining camp, and That may be it. I was looking for something larger and thinking that we would top the funeral range, but maybe this was the upper mining camp. Who knows? And there's the platform structure. Maybe that was the top of the summit of the aerial tram. Well, perhaps this was the upper mining camp. There are certainly a few mines up on these hills above us. And we were up there just a moment ago. And it doesn't look like there's a way around the cliffs there. So if there's another trail that goes up and it goes to another location, it's not this trail. But perhaps this was the main Keane Wonder Mine trail, and we are looking down below at what may very well have been the upper end of that aerial tram. There's the machinery right down here that would have pulled the cars up and lowered them down the tramway. And then over here there is a structure that looks like the one at the bottom of the tramway, where there's a ramp that leads to it, and then I think that the ore cars would have gone down from a platform up there. So anyway, and then that would make this the upper mining camp. And you can see a few little platforms where structures would have been built to provide shade for the miners. Remember, you're up to the 120s in the summer in this area. Things that I missed on the way up. There's a rusty little cart, wheelbarrow. And the trail that I took, it's a very nice trail at first. It skirts those cliffs there. Yeah, right down in this area. You can maybe see right below the dark rock there where there is a trail. That's what I took. And I was thinking, nope, you got to go further up. I don't think you can go further up, and that trail, as nice as it is at first, gets sketchier and sketchier until finally it leads to that box canyon we were in. So I think that I have probably explored about all we're going to see of Keane Wonder Mine today. And yeah, look at this. Another mine opening. Lots of openings in the cliff here. So yes, I'm going to imagine that, and then you can see some up higher. So I'm going to imagine that this is where a lot of mining activity occurred. And then the ore was taken out of the side of the mountain, and then it was carted down to the lower area from that platform and the summit of the aerial tram. That's my best guess. Well, as long as we're here at the upper end of the tramway, here's a quick timeline that I put together for Keane Wonder Mine. 1890s to 1904, Jack Keane and Domingo Etcharren were prospecting the region. In 1904, Keane discovered the presence of quartz indicating a gold vein and named it Keane's Wonder. And that's why I showed you that rock a while ago that had quartz embedded in the rock. So claims were staked, and you've seen some of the mining claims. Those are the shafts that are in the side of the hill. And they landed an initial investor from Ballarat, 70 miles away. But in 1905, the investor looked at this area, and I can see why. Wow. He pulled out because it just looked like, how are you going to extract gold from this area, from these hills? And so in 1906, John Campbell and Homer Wilson, through their San Francisco company, invested in the mining operation. A stamp mill was built in the mining camp above, which, this may be part of that stamp mill. Not sure. A water pipe was installed along the 1,500-foot elevation gain, and definitely we have been looking at a water pipe all the way up. The aerial tramway was built to cart ore 1,000 feet vertically downward in less than a mile to the Keane Wonder Mill below, and I think we might be about 1,000 feet up. And the miners lived down below, and there was a store there. The mill and the tramway kept production costs down, making the mine profitable for more years than any other mine in the region. 1907, the mine was in full operation and extracting 700 tons of gold ore each day. There were over 50 mine openings, and we've seen some of them. They produced over $1 million. There were railroad spurs connect Keane Wonder Mine to the Tonopah and Tidewater Railway in 1907, and the peak population was less than 100. That's the miners and anyone who was supporting them. 1912, the output was diminishing, and that's true of all the other mines in the area too. Rhyolite, Skidoo, Eureka, all the mines in the area began to be tapped out around 1907 in that era. There was a post office built in 1912 still, even though the output was diminishing. I guess something was continuing. The mill area post office closed in 1914, and in 1916 Keane Wonder Mine closed, but some operations continued. Sometime after 1916, Jack Keane built a store in the town of Darwin, a little town above Darwin Falls. And, maybe one day we'll visit that. The town of Darwin. That's an interesting place. I've driven through it. Middle of the day, entirely abandoned. It was a little spooky, actually. Anyway, some time after he built the store, Jack Keane built the store in the town of Darwin, he eventually returned to his homeland, Ireland, where he was imprisoned for 17 years on a murder charge. Then in 1942, all the operations of the mine ended. And as I mentioned, in 1984, a man died after falling into vertical mine shaft, and we may have actually looked down into that very mine shaft. And there were 50 mine entrances closed off. In 2008 to 2017, the whole area was closed for restoration and stabilization of these mining structures. And you might see some stabilizing beams on the structures. I'm not necessarily seeing them. They're not like the cables that I saw at the Skidoo stamp mill. Much of the lead, mercury, and cyanide used to extract gold from the raw ore was cleaned up during that time, though some remains in the area. In 2017, Keane Wonder Mine reopened for Death Valley Park visitors. So there you have it, the quick timeline for Keane Wonder Mine, and the most successful mining operation in the Death Valley area. There you see across the valley to the Panamint Range and Telescope Peak. Okay, that pretty much winds up our discovery of the Keane Wonder Mine area in Death Valley, California. But what do you know? I walked right past this on the way up. Amazing how you see things differently on the return trip. So look at this. It's a mine opening, and it even has its own door. Yeah, it's not going to move. Let's go in here. So it's blocked off right about this point. But let's just see how far in we can see beyond this barrier. Yeah, look at that. Wow, right into the side of the solid rock. Now you get an idea what the miners saw after they'd spent a day in the dark. They emerged. This must have been blinding to emerge into the Death Valley sunlight through that opening. Wow. Anyway, yep. That's another mine opening in this area we missed on the way up. Okay, let's continue down. Okay, it's time for some revisions. What I referred to as the tram platforms, it now appears are the lower stamp mill right here, the upper stamp mill above where the mining town is. So these are actually stamp mills, the two stamp mills of Keane Wonder Mine. And here's the other thing that I've discovered. When I reached the upper stamp mill, I thought that that was only the halfway point for the tram. Wrong. That was the top, the summit of the tram area. And so I went beyond, and I went way beyond into a box canyon looking for the summit. Well, I was at the summit at that point. So anyway, putting everything back together, here's the lower stamp mill. The upper stamp mill, we've got great shots of that too. And in my favor, I would say that the stamp mills probably also served as a platform for the tram above and below. But they're also stamp mills where the raw ore was further processed and the gold extracted. So here you are, and we're back at the base of Keane Wonder Mine. Awesome experience today. Look at the aerial tram towers above. Quite an engineering achievement given the resources that the miners had to work with. And one last thing, stamp mills were built on hills. And the reason for that is that the ore would, as the ore was sent down the stamp mill, it was crushed with stampers and then sprayed with water to extract the gold from the raw ore. Okay, that pretty much concludes Keane Wonder Mine.